There's that moment. Your entire body flinches. Your orderly world freezes and begins to shatter. You weren't ready. You were not prepared. But all of a sudden it came at you. It sent chills down your spine, and now you have to respond. The water balloon, the hose, the shooter. That moment when that child giggling in the background sounds like a hysterical maniac that needs to be cursed for life. But you can't. The words in your mind are not currently age appropriate. So you take a deep breath. You have a choice in this moment. And it can be a pretty serious choice. You can scold that disorderly monster that got you wet and turned your moment backwards, or you can find the blessing that child, and sometimes adult, poured out on you because they picked you. You see, that child, that teenager, sometimes that crazy pastor is watching to see how the response is played out. Is it going to be disgust and blame? Or is there joy and the ability to even find beauty in that moment? Can you find goodness in the imperfect and unexpected? Can you find God in this moment and show God to the person who picked you as being worthy to be part of the game and life? You know, in this moment, you can create a way for a person to feel worthless and feel dissension due to your own sudden discomfort. Or you can show grace and mercy and joy and give a sense of life to that person. Sometimes a child, sometimes a teenager, sometimes an adult, but they are watching how you respond. Jesus' promise of living water does not always come in picturesque sitting by a rolling river moments. Sometimes it comes with big waves and shocks. It comes in ways that challenge us to be gentle with ourselves and to be gentle with one another. Often I find that those who are hurting as children and adults are the people who are going to shoot a type of water gun at you and challenge you again and again just to see how you respond. Many times their water balloon shots have hit someone and their experience has always been that that person runs away or yells. Their spirit and game plan has been shattered, and so here they are again trying to throw something at you. And watch to see if you yell and run away. They are testing you to see, can you really handle their crazy, their pain, their hurt, their fear? And sometimes we are the ones who throw the water balloons. We too test one another. We want to see how the world responds to what we have to offer. We use a little bit of shock value, like a water balloon, to see how rattled it makes your world and ultimately ours. I mean, we have a limited time to pour out our blessings, and so we must ask the question sometimes, are you worth the time? Are you worth my time? Are you going to walk out, get mad because of a little bit of water? Are you going to stay when the well runs dry? Or when it's full? Are you going to be part of the difficult work of pouring out heavy water to the animals and plants and people who need it? Are we able to all carry our weight? Are you going to help me help others when they need all of us to walk into their raging waters of pain, hurt, and injustice? And we must also recognize that no matter who we are, sometimes When we have been shot with a water balloon or something unexpected in life, we do respond with anger. And sometimes we have found ourselves that we yell. We don't always respond in the ways that we should. We do not respond in playful ways, but in ways of revenge and anger because we were uncomfortable in that moment. We find ourselves quickly making choices from our gut to not turn the other cheek, but to take an eye from an eye. And we as people of faith, though, then have to take a deep breath. Allow ourselves gentleness with our own faults. And remember today's scripture. Today's scripture, historically a letter from Paul to Titus, reminds us that we again and again have someone through Jesus Christ who has shown us how to forgive ourselves. We have someone who shows us how to find ways through his grace to rise above our failures and petty responses. We remember that while sometimes, no matter who we are, we walk out, Jesus continually finds doors and windows and ways to walk in, to remind us of the importance of grace and gentleness. Titus is learning the importance of not sweating the small stuff, but instead looking at the bigger picture. This letter is reminding Titus to not get so caught up in the details that you miss the point of God's work. The point of Jesus in this message is that we deliver ourselves and others by being generous and loving people. That God's Spirit moves through us when we pour out on others the blessings of God's love, even in those moments when it is most difficult. I know that some of you are already aware of this. Northern Kentucky hates heroin. I was introduced to this amazing ministry just 2 weeks ago at the district ministers meeting. The highlights for those of you who have not been introduced to this ministry is that members at Fort Thomas Christian Church lost their son to a heroin overdose. Instead of hiding away, they used their experience to find ways to help other addicts and their families. They worked to provide real people with real resources and real understanding. During their conversation with the pastors, they spoke about how many people struggle with being part of churches because the church doesn't seem to be able to talk or accept genuinely the labels that are associated with heroin addiction or any other type of addictions. That the difficult conversations for a person or a family is made even more difficult because the church and some of its people just do not know how to be gentle in life-shocking moments. And yet they have founded their church again and again, which has a little connection to our church, was a place where shocking and tough situations were embraced and welcomed. During the Mission First conversation at my table last week, we spent time considering how do we meet people where they are without making them be us? How do we realize there are many people out there who need help but have no ability or tools or want to ask for it? We remind ourselves, even in that meeting, that no one wants to be seen as needing help. All of us want to be empowered in ways to help others because needing help is a vulnerable position. And when we put ourselves in a vulnerable position, they are watching how we respond. And so we must see people as people who need help so that they can find ways to continue to help others. Are we able to go out and meet people where they are, even when it's shocking? Are we able to meet them with love and gentleness and no expectation for them to walk inside of our doors and be like us? Are we able to meet them with a sense of deep grace? We teach through our initiatives, our actions, our words, and responses. We teach through our patience, and we teach remembering that true growth comes with hard work. As we know, as we garden, weeds grow easily and quickly, but good growth, good quality, takes time. Some people will get caught in the weeds and the details and run away. But sometimes that negative type of energy that isn't sun or rain or positive, filled with love's grace, that might be the point where there is a door that is open for those who need to know a loving place to walk in. And it is goodness and loving kindness that Jesus has shown us again and again. That is what saves us. And it can also be the same Spirit that saves others. The word in this week's scripture in Greek is philanthropia. Like the word philanthropy, it means that we are called to be like Jesus and thus to be people who love humanity. And so I encourage all of us to go out from this place and love humanity. And when we're in this place, work to love one another. When our children come back into worship in a few weeks, we need to make sure that we respond in a way that lets them see why they want to continue to walk into a church again and again. And we must continue with our difficult and hard conversations to walk into them at the well with gentleness and a sense of grace and openness. Last week's sermon was about how God wins, no matter what we do. But we can still help God win. We can still find ways to pour out our blessings. God wins when we are able to embrace those challenging and shocking moments, and in those moments create a joyful growth of spirit, of love, of life. If we pour out God's love, we give other people a life that knows God's love. We just have to take a moment. Remember how to respond. That someone is watching. God is watching. And in that moment when we make that decision of how to respond, if we respond with gentleness, love, grace, mercy, goodness, hope, faith, when somebody shoots you with a water gun, game on.